Hey there, I'm Louie, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to crochet a little Iron Man finger puppet. So for this pattern we're going to need the following materials. I'm using all worsted weight yarn in red, gold, and light blue for just some minor details. I'm also using some black thread for the mouth. And the red that I'm using is more of like a ruby red than like a fire engine red. But you can really use whatever you'd like. And because I'm using all worsted weight yarn, I'm using a size G crochet hook. You'll also need a darning needle, some scissors, and some stuffing. Alright, well, let's get hooking. So to start, before we get to the head, we need to make some shoulder pads, and these are optional, but they can be pretty useful to put over the arms when you get to there. For the shoulder pads, you'll make a slip knot, as I just did, and chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. And this is easier to do right now before our red yarn is being used for the main body. You can cut the yarn now and just pull all the way through. And you want to make 2 of these, and we're going to use this to sew onto the arms over the shoulders. Okay, so for the head, we're going to start by making a magic loop. You can also use the chain 2 method if you'd like, if you find that a little bit easier. I'm going to start with the magic loop. Get off my finger there. And into the second chain from the hook, or into the magic loop, we're going to single crochet 6 times around. 1, 2, and this pattern is going to be worked in the round, meaning that we will not turn around for the entire pattern. We're just going to work in a spiral all the way around. Okay, now we're going to tighten that up. That'll be the end of round 1. There we go. Okay, so for round 2, we're going to be doing an increase into each stitch all the way around, which means 2 single crochets into every stitch. So I'm going to get in that first one. I'm going to work around this tail just for the first few stitches. We're just going to make an increase into each stitch around. And that's going to bring you up from 6 stitches to 12 stitches around, because we're doing 2 single crochets into each stitch. Then 2 times 6, that's going to be 12. Never really thought I'd use math in elementary school. Turns out I did need it. I use it all the time for crochet. Who would have thought? Okay, I'm going to loosen up my grip a little bit. I'm kind of making it smaller than I'd like. For round 3, we're going to do a single crochet into the first stitch, and then an increase into the next stitch right here. Okay? And you want to repeat that process 6 times total. And that's going to bring you up from 12 stitches to 18. So let's do our second repeat here. So 1, and then an increase. 2 and 2. Okay? So we're going up from 12 to 18 now. Now we're on, it's our third repeat there. And this is actually going to be the most that we increase for our Iron Man pattern. The Hulk pattern I made is just a little bit bigger than this one. It was kind of tricky because I've been doing this pattern for so long for different, this size of Amigurumi for so long. It took a while to figure out the perfect size for the Hulk. Alright, that's going to be the end of round 3. For round 4, we're going to single crochet into each stitch all the way around. And actually, that's going to be the process for the majority of the rounds from here till, I believe, till we get to the arms. So what you're going to do is just single crochet into each stitch all the way around for round 4. We're going to be doing color changes after this. So you want to stop 1 stitch early. And there should be 18 stitches around while you're working in the round here. So just do a single crochet into every stitch around, all in this red. And then we're going to start our color changes after round 4. We're going to stop 1 stitch before the end. We're coming up on the end just a sec. Okay, and this is going to be we're on our last stitch right here in round 4. And now before we finish it up, we want to grab our gold yarn. And we're going to do a lot of color changes in this pattern. So first we're going to halfway finish our single crochet there. We're going to grab our gold yarn and we're going to place it in between the two, hold it down with our index finger of our dominant, for me that's my right hand, and place our non-dominant index finger in between the two strands like that. And I'm just going to flip it under, yarn over with our new color, and pull it through. And that's how we're going to do color changes. Okay, so for our next round, round 5, we want to do 2 in this gold. Well, first off, every single stitch in this round is a single crochet. So you're just doing single crochets around. But we are doing some fancy color change work. So we want 2 in this gold. 1 and 2. And as you pull it, we don't, oh, actually we do want to finish that up. So let's finish that stitch up. Now for the next 2 stitches, we want them to be half gold and half red. So the top half is gold and the bottom half is red. So what we do is we want to switch back over so that the red is on top for just a second, and go into the stitch and pull through with red. And now you can see how the end of the stitch is going to be the top is gold and the bottom is red. And we want this for 2 stitches. So for our second stitch, we're going to pull through with gold. There's our first one done. And there's going to be our second one. Okay? We're going to pull through with gold because our next 2 stitches are all in gold. So we did 2 all gold, 2 half gold, half red. And I say gold first because gold is on the top. And then 2 all gold. And if you're reading along in the pattern, you can see these stitches at the end of the round. There's going to be little brackets with all the color changes in the round. Okay, so there's our color changes there. Now the rest of the stitches are all going to be red. So we don't want to finish this stitch by pulling through with gold because the rest of the stitches are all red. So we switch back over to red and pull through with red. Okay, and then for the next, I believe 12 stitches. Yeah, for the next 12 stitches, we're all going to make them in red. So we can pull that through. I crocheted around that gold for the first stitch. We can cut our gold loose, and we'll come back to the gold at the end of the round. Pull the gold out. Okay, and we're just going to finish by single crocheting in red for the next 12 stitches. So there's 3, 4, and at the end of this round you want to stop 1 stitch early again because we're going to do our color changes right at the beginning of the next round again. So we're just coming up to the end here. Okay, so for our next round, here's the end of our last stitch. That was going to be, that's the end of round 5. For round 6, again, we're just doing single crochets all the way around. And actually round 6 and 7 are the exact same patterns. We're going to place our gold in between so we can change back to the gold. We'll finish by pulling through the gold here. And for round 6, give it a little bit more yarn. We're going to do 7 stitches in this gold. I'm going to do our first stitch around the red just to keep it in place. And because it's so many stitches away from this, we're going to actually cut the red and come back to it after our 7 gold stitches. Place it down. And we're going to do 7 in gold. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and halfway through for our 7th there. And we can grab our red yarn, place it back in between, and change back over to our red yarn. Okay, we're going to single crochet around that gold for that next stitch. And for the rest of the stitches in round 6, we're going to be doing all in red. And that's going to be 11 stitches in red. And like I said, round 6 and 7 are the exact same color changes. You're going to do 7 in gold and then 11 in red. So So when we get to the end of this right here, I'll change back over, and I'll do the exact same thing. Okay. So there's the end of round 6, and then we get ready for round 7. Place it in between, change to gold, and we're going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to crochet around the first one in gold, cut a red, and we're going to do 7 in gold. Okay, and then we're going to change back to red and do the exact same thing again. So round 6 and 7 are actually pretty easy. And this is the classic armor for Iron Man. I want to do one with the new armor from Infinity War, because it was so cool. I'm not going to spoil anything if you haven't seen Avengers Infinity War, because it was really good. You should definitely go see it. But Iron Man's armor in Infinity War is the coolest armor that Iron Man wears in all of the Marvel Universe series. It's actually based off of, in the comics, he had this really cool armor. So I guess everything in the Marvel Universe is based off the comics. Well, almost everything. Some things are kind of weird and different. Okay. All right, so we're coming to the end here. And that's that last stitch is going to be the end of round 7. And we can actually finish up this last stitch, because for round 8, while we are doing color changes, we're doing it a little bit different. So our end for round 7. For round 8, we're doing 1 stitch in red. Okay, so our first stitch is all in red. Now we can grab our gold. And we want to do 5 stitches in all gold. We're going to crochet around the red one for the first one. And because it's only 5 stitches away, I'm actually not going to cut this red. I'm just going to pull it to the side with my index finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, and here's our 5th. Now we're going to place our index finger of our right hand. Let's actually get rid of these extra little pieces here, because we don't need them. They're kind of getting in the way. So I'm going to place my index finger in between where the red came out, so it can go over, so I can give it a little bit of space in between. And we're going to, for our next stitch, we want it to be half red, half gold, meaning the red is on top. So we're going to do that same little finger thing where we flip over so that red is over, and we're going to pull through with red. I'm going to pull that in. You don't want this little bridge here to be too tight. And so we want the top to be red, and we want the bottom to be gold. So we pull through with gold. And for the rest of the stitches, we're going to want them all to be red. So we change back over to red. We'll single crochet around that gold for just 1 stitch there. Got it loose. Okay, and so for our next 11 stitches, we want them all to be red. So we'll just keep crocheting around in this red yarn here. Okay. And that's going to be the end of round 8. Okay, because you can kind of see how the face mask is starting to look. Now for round 9, we're going to do 2 in this all in red. So we go 1, pull that gold out a little bit, and 2. We're going to halfway pull through 2, because now we're going to do a few color changes. So grab our gold, place it in between. And for the next 4 stitches, we want them to be half red, half gold, meaning that red is on top. So we pull through with red. Grab a little bit extra yarn there. And we want 4 stitches where it's the bottom is gold and the top is red. So there's 1, 2, 3, 3. And there's our 4th. Pull through with red. And now the rest of our stitches in round 9 are all in red. So that's 12 stitches in red. So we're going to crochet around that gold for the first one and cut it loose. Get our gold yarn out of there. And we'll finish up these single crochets in round 9, all in red. Okay, and that's going to be the end of round 9. Now for round 10, we're going to be doing some weird stitches for the first time. But before I do that, I want to explain the stitch that we're going to do. So we're going to be making a bobble stitch. So I'm just going to pull through with this red. We're going to do color changes for the bobble stitch, so I'm going to come back to it. But I'd first like to explain just what the bobble stitch looks like and how it's made. So bobble stitch is kind of like 4 double crochets put together. So how you make a bobble stitch is you yarn over with the yarn, and you go into the next stitch and pull a loop through, and then yarn over and pull a loop through 2 stitches there, okay? And you want to repeat that 4 times total. So let's do it again. We'll yarn over, go in, pull a loop through, yarn over, and pull through 2. Okay, so that's 2, yarn over, in, loop through, yarn over, pull through 2, 3, and 4. Okay? And then to finish up a bobble stitch, you yarn over and pull through all the stitches on the hook. And it makes a little boink, like a little bobble. Okay? And you want it to point out this way. And then you'll just single crochet into the next stitch and blah, blah, blah. But we want to do some color changes into this arm. So in the pattern, I write it so that it's the top half of the stitch is gold and the bottom half is red. But in reality, I think it looks a little bit better if you do even more tricky stuff. So first off, we want to take out that last stitch that we made in round 9. So we can crochet around a piece of gold yarn. Okay, so we're going to crochet around the gold yarn. And now we're going to start our bobble stitch. Now first I want the first part of the bobble stitch to be all red. And this is my little tricky color change. If you want to do a little bit easier time, then you're going to want to do this with gold. But we're going to do red first. Okay, so there's our first bit. And pull through 2 with red. Okay, so we started our bobble stitch. Now our next one, we want it to be the top half, or I mean the bottom half of this stitch to be gold and the top bit to be red. So we yarn over with gold and go into the stitch and pull through 1 with gold, and then change back to red and pull through 2 with red. And we're going to do that twice, so don't worry, we'll do that again. So we have 2 of our 4 done for our bobble stitch. Let's do it again now. We want to do another one that's gold. So we yarn over with gold, go into the stitch and pull through with gold, and then change back to red and pull through 2 with red. Okay? And for our last one, we want it to all be red. So we yarn over with red, go into the stitch, pull through with red, yarn over, and pull through 2 with red. Okay. And that's how I'm going to make my arms. And my legs, actually. I make both the arms and the legs this way. And you want to yarn over and pull through all 4 stitches with our red yarn there. And now we can single crochet around the gold yarn for our first stitch. And we can actually cut the gold yarn. We don't need it until we get to the next arm. Okay. So that's like a very fancy way to do the arms, but it gives it a really nice look. It makes it look like this character has a little bit more detail, even though it's only in 1 stitch. It's kind of a fancy way to do it, and I really like it. It's really been beneficial to me in the past. Okay, so next up we want to have 3 stitches in red. So we did 1, and let's do 2, and we're going to pull halfway through our 3rd one right there. And now we want our light blue yarn. We want to make his arc reactor that's on his chest. And we're going to place it in between, and we're going to pull through with red because we want the top of the stitch to be red and we want the bottom of the stitch to be light blue. So we change back over to light blue, go into the stitch and pull through with light blue, and then change back over to red and pull through two with red. Okay? See how we're making a little arc reactor? That's the only light blue that you want there. Now we can crochet around the light blue for the next stitch, all in red. And we actually want three more stitches in all red. So we got 1, 2, and here's our third. Now we want to do another arm. So we grab our gold, place it in between, and we're gonna pull through with red. Now we're gonna do another arm. So remember, the first stitch in the bobble is all in red. Okay. Now our next one is gold. So we got a little bit of gold in there. And pull through 2 with red. Okay, so there's our second stitch of the bobble. Now let's do that one again. We yarn over with gold, go into the stitch and pull through with gold, change to red, and pull through 2 with red. In our last stitch in the bobble, we want all red. There we go. And now you finish up by yarning over and pull through all 4 of those stitches with red. And then we're going to single crochet around this gold for the next stitch. We're going to cut it. And we're going to finish up this round by single crocheting in all the stitches all in red. There should be 9 stitches, I think. Yes, 9 stitches all in red. Okay. All right. And that's going to be the end of round 10. Now you can see how he's really coming together now. All right. So for round 11, it's all single crochets and all in red. It's a nice little respite from this craziness that we were doing. So we're just going to single crochet into every stitch all the way around in red. Pretty easy. And you can kind of see how the arc reactor is going to start looking after this round too. Okay. And there still should be 18 stitches around as you go around. Okay. Just a few more here. Okay. So it's going to be our last stitch there. We're going to pull the red out a little bit because now we want to add our face. So first we want to add the eyes, and the eyes are in round 7. So we need a little bit of our light blue. You don't need very much. A little light blue and our darning needle. Place our darning needle on top. Our darning needle. And we do them in round 7. So if we count up, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is going to be round 7. Okay, it's going to be the third round of golds. And our eyes go into, let's see, we go between stitch 2 and stitch 6. So we go 1, 2 stitches over. Okay. And you want to pull through. And you want to go, I'm going to do it this way. We're going to go around, oops, there we go. We want to go into the next stitch like that, and then come back out again, and you want to do it twice. Like that. Okay, we're just embroidering on a little bit of eye action there. Okay, so there's our first one. We can cut. We can tie the ends together, just do a little double knot on the inside. Okay. All right, so there's our left eye. Now our right eye is in stitch 6. So if that was stitch 2, there's 3, 4, 5, and here's our 6th stitch. And I'm going to do it the other way around. So see how I came from this end to this end on that side? On this one, I'm going to do the other way around. So I'm going to go from that side to that side. And the reason we're doing that is because it gives him a little bit more of an angry look to his eyes. It's just trial and error that I found. It makes it a little bit better. Okay. One. Two. Okay. There's our eyes. Now we can double knot with our blue, light blue yarn on the inside. Okay. You can cut the yarn. Oops. Almost lost it. Okay. Pull this out. And now we want to add our mouth. And the mouth is, let's show you on the final project. Our mouth, he's got definitely a frown going on. So what we do is we want to grab a little bit of our black yarn here. Or black thread, rather. Thread it on the needle. And here's how I make the mouth. I'm going to start by going into the bottom right of the mask, right there, and then angled to the left into that stitch right here, okay? And then go over to this stitch, okay? So that's like 1, 2, 3 stitches over, come out, and then go down through the stitch under that, and back up through the same stitch you just went down through. Okay, so you can see those are the corners of the mouth. You can pull those a little tight. And now you want to finish by going in through that last one right there. Just like so. And we can pull both of these ends a little tight. And we can just double knot it on the inside. So pretty easy to make the mouth. Okay, so you can see how he's got his classic Iron Man frown. Not a happy camper. Probably because of all the aliens and stuff that are attacking his planet. Okay, so we have our face for our Iron Man finished now. Now let's add some light blue yarn under the hands. So we can actually use the thread, our leftover from our eyes now. Thread light blue. We're going to go under the hands. And I'm just going to go like, all I like to do is just one little stitch in light blue to show his like hand pulsers. See? So that's it, just like that. You can do more than one if you want to really show them off, but I think just one does the trick. You get the idea of, oh, those are hand pulsers. We're just going to double knot it. We're going to do that on both sides for the hands. Okay, so there's our I guess left hand if you're looking at it a weird way. And here's our right hand. Okay. And we will double knot the right hand. And the last thing we want to make before we get back to crocheting is we want to sew on our shoulder pads. Remember those shoulder pads we made in the beginning? And I don't think the shoulder pads are completely necessary. I think you can get away with not making the shoulder pads at all, but they're kind of a nice extra detail. So we'll grab our shoulder pads. And they're pretty easy to sew on. You just thread one side, one of these two tails, and you put it on one side of the shoulder. Okay, so just behind the arm. And then you thread, don't pull it too hard or else it'll actually get pulled through the stitch, which I've done many times. And then you thread the other end, and you go through the other side of the shoulder right there. Okay. All right. You see how he's just got little shoulder pads there? You can pull them a little tighter if you want, and just double knot them on the inside. Give them a little bit more armor. And we're going to do that for both sides. Okay, so you can see his little shoulder pad there. Let's do the other shoulder. So one side of the arm. There's the other side of the arm. Okay. He's got his little shoulder pads on. Looking slick, looking ready for battle almost. We can double knot it on the inside. That'll be how you sew on them shoulder pads. All right. Cut it. Okay, and to finish, get back to our crocheting. Okay. All right. So for our next round, we are on round 12 now of the body. You want to single crochet 2, 1, and here's going to be our second single crochet. I'm not going to finish it up because we're going to make the legs the exact same way that I make the arms. Okay, so we're going to pull through with the red, and again, we're going to make bobble stitches. So we're going to do the first one all in red, and the second one we're going to have that half gold. So we're going to yarn over gold, go in, pull through, switch to red, pull through 2 with red, and then we're going to do that again. Pull through 2. Okay. And now we're going to yarn over and pull through with all red for our last stitch of the bobble. I'm actually going to do that last one a little bit tighter because this loop was a little loose for it, and I don't really want a loose loop. There we go. And we can pull through all those stitches with red. Okay, and there's going to be 4 single crochets between legs, so crochet around the first one with gold. So it's 1, 2, 3. Here's our 4th, and I didn't cut the gold, just like how we made that red loop on the inside there. We're gonna make another leg, pull through with red, and let's do that leg again. First part of the bobble is all red. Then it's gold. Okay. Then it's gold again. And then we'll finish up this bobble with just an all red. And pull through with red. Okay? So there's our legs. Now we'll finish up this round with all single crochets in red. And we're going to cut this gold first. Okay. And there should be, I think there's 10 red now. few more in our all red. Okay, there's our last one right here. Okay, and now before we continue on to finish up our piece, I want to add just a little bit of gold yarn. They kind of look like ribs. They go under his arms. We just add a little bit of gold for ribs. And this is some very subtle detail, but again, you're not doing too much for this pattern, so the subtle detail is definitely, it definitely helps out. Okay, so you're going to pull through this gold, and I'm going straight above the leg, and then into the next stitch over right next to the arm. Okay, so you see how I'm adding just a little bit of gold there? And then we want them to be staggered a little bit, so out through that stitch and in through this one. See how it's staggered a little bit to the right? We want to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to double knot that. Cut the yarn. And let's add some ribs to the other side. Same thing, we're going to go right above the leg, but we're going to stagger it the opposite way now. Okay. Okay, so you see how it's a little bit staggered right there. We're going to tie them. Double knot. Okay, we cut the yarn. And now we're done with our gold, so we can throw that to the side. Okay. Okay, get back to crocheting. Now we're on round 13 of the pattern. So for round 13, we're doing a single crochet into the first stitch. Okay, right there. And now we're going to do a decrease, not an invisible decrease, but a harsh decrease. Now a harsh decrease for me, that is where you go into the next stitch and pull a loop through. Okay, then you go into the next stitch, pull another loop through, and pull that second loop through the two on the hook. Okay, and you want to repeat that process of a one single crochet and then one decrease 6 times total. So let's do it again. We'll do a single crochet, and then a sharp decrease. There's our second. Keep doing it. 6 times total, and that's going to bring you down from 18 stitches to 12 stitches. Okay. Single crochet, and then a decrease. Okay. So if you want to make it for like just stuffed closed, you would do a decrease into each stitch all the way around now, and stuff it up, and yeah, that would be how you finish it up. But we want to make ours into a finger puppet. Before we want to do that though, we want to stuff it just a little bit. So we'll grab some stuffing. And you don't want to stuff our Iron Man too tight. But you do want to, you know, you don't want him to be have an empty armor. But you need enough room, because we're making it into a finger puppet. You want to give him enough room so that your finger can fit in there. Okay. So we're going to stuff it a little bit more after that, but you see how it's kind of indented with the stuffing right there so that your finger can go in? Okay. And we're going to stuff it more in just a little bit, but we want to do our next round now. And again, we're making this as the finger puppet part. So for our next round, you want to do a single crochet, 2 single crochets, and then a decrease. But you want to work only into these back loops, meaning the furthest loops from you, right there. Okay, so we're doing 2 single crochets, 1, 2, and then a decrease. Okay, and you want to repeat that 6 times or 3 times total. So there's 1, and that's going to bring you down from 12 stitches to 9 stitches. There's 2, hold on. Okay, there's 2. Here's our last one. You're working only in those loops furthest away from us. And the reason we work into the loops furthest away is because it makes it a little bit easier to stuff it in. Because our trick is going to be, this finger puppet part can be kind of tricky to stuff it all the way in. Okay, so that's going to be the end of that round. Now you want to do 3 rounds of just single crochets. You can work into both loops again. So working into both loops, you want 3 rounds of single crochets, and there should be 9 stitches in each round. So I'll go ahead and make these 3 rounds of single crochets. I'll be right back. Okay, so I finished my 3 rounds of single crochets there, and now we can stuff it like a decent amount more. We want to place the stuffing over it, and I like using a pencil for this part because it's makes it a little bit easier to stuff it closed. So with our pencil, we want to just get as much stuffing as we can in there. That makes it you're still able to fit your finger in there. So you do a little bit more stuffing than that. Because it's also going to be stuffed with the finger puppet part. So you got to be careful not to stuff him too much, which can be a little bit tricky. Okay, I think that should probably do it. Yeah, okay. So for our last round for this finger puppet, you're going to work again into the back loops to make it easier to stuff it in. We're going to do a single crochet into the first stitch and a decrease into the next stitch. There we go. Okay, so single crochet, then a decrease, and you want to repeat that 3 times total. That's going to bring you down from 9 stitches to 6 stitches. So here's our second repeat. Decrease. Our last repeat here. And so you should have 6 stitches around at the end of this last round here. Here's our last decrease. And the trick really comes with stuffing it in. I think that's the trickiest part of our finger puppet here. Now you can cut the yarn. And you want a somewhat long end, you don't need it too long. And we can just pull the yarn all the way through. Okay. Thread it on our needle. And now we'll just sew it closed. If you don't know how to sew closed, I have a video. There should be a link right here in the description about that. But it's pretty simple. You just count 3 up through that last one. We're basically sewing it with like an asterisk. You don't need to tie this end too tight because it will be stuffed up inside of Iron Man. There we go. We're kind of making Tony Stark right now. And to finish it up, you want to take your needle and go all the way up till you get through. Be kind of hard to do with this dull needle, but I'm trying to work my way all the way up till you get through the top of it. There we go. See? Oh man, I gotta try that again. Let's try it one more time. I didn't notice that the yarn fell off the needle. My bad. Let's try that again. Just wiggle. I just wiggle the needle to get the stuffing out of the way until it's all feeling like I'm getting squashed down. Okay, there we go. And now the trick is stuffing this thing back into Iron Man. So what I like to do is you can use your finger to just kind of like stuff it in. But I've been using the back of my crochet hook recently, and that's been making it a little bit easier. And you just want to make sure that it's all the way stuffed in. And don't worry about messing up Iron Man that much, because we're going to tweak him back into shape in just a sec. It's kind of hard to do with this flat end, but there we go. Get it stuffed in there. You get your finger, and what you want to do is, what I'm doing right now is I'm grabbing the stuffing and I'm pulling the stuffing on around the finger puppet part to give it more stuff to grip onto your finger with. You just want to fill them in with stuffing, you know. You can pull this end up. Okay. We can cut the end here at the top. And there you go. Now we have a finger puppet Iron Man. There we go. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe down below. It really helps out the channel. It helps out me. And if you want more patterns like this, I'm coming out with a bunch of Avengers patterns right now. You can find them at clubcrochet.com/Avengers. And each one has a video just like this. Here is Doctor Strange. He's got his cape. I have the Hulk. And then I'm working on Thanos for right now, Black Panther, and pretty much every single Avengers I'm planning on having on clubcrochet.com/Avengers. Thanks again for watching. I hope you liked this video. Pasta la pizza, and happy hooking.